I was watching the game. It was just another play.
I can still hear the sound. I mean, the pop, I knew instantly it wasn't very good.
I didn't know it was him hurt at first until somebody said Coney's down.
And Coney like lifted up his leg and like it was just hanging there. It was just, and me, Mom, and Dad, we all ran out there on the field.
On October 19, 2012, in the small town of Warden, Montana, it was the last game of the season for the Huntley Project High School football team when Coney Dole suffered a broken leg that punctured the skin, requiring immediate surgery.
I just felt something wasn't right. And then when they did the surgery and took some of the muscle, I knew right then we were headed down the path that wasn't good.
On that path, the Dole family was forced to make an impossible decision.
They had my mom and dad break the news to him that either he'd have a limp leg for the rest of his life, that he'd have to wear a brace and never play football or anything again, or have an amputation. He chose an amputation.
After 6 surgeries, Coney Dole awakened to the realization that his life will not be the same.
You know, hoping you're gonna wake up from a bad dream and just looking down and seeing your leg, it's not there anymore. You know, just having to accept that right there, just hard. The doctor came in right away and was explaining to me everything I was gonna be able to do and wasn't gonna be able to do. And the first thing he said was, I don't think you'll ever be able to play football again, but there's other options. And I just kind of like thought to myself, you know, watch me.
After the doctors gave the okay to go home, Coney gave himself the okay to get back to work.
I was looking at how many days I had till our first team camp. And, you know, that was the plan all along, to be back by then.
Once he released from the hospital, he went straight to the weight room to lift. There was no doubt in my mind that he would do it.
Just 2 months after his amputation, Coney was on the mat wrestling. Then, with a prosthetic blade, he was running. But there were trying times.
I could just see it in his eyes. He just started crying. And he's like, I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. And me and Coach Hess were telling him, you can't give up. You gotta prove these guys wrong.
Determined, Coney was training harder than ever to achieve that goal set from his hospital bed.
Number 7, Coney Dole.
Against all odds, in his return game, not only did Coney Dole play, he scored 2 touchdowns and recorded a sack.
Just to step in that end zone again, it was just kind of like, I'm back. I'm not going anywhere this time.
It was very emotional to see 7 months of such hard work and to be with him when things aren't going well, and to learn how to walk again, to learn how to run, to learn how to laterally move and know what it takes to play the game.
It was on this field where a broken leg could have ended a dream. But Coney Dole had a dream not meant to be broken. His determination to rise again helped turn his lifelong dream into a reality, earning a preferred walk-on scholarship to play football at Montana State University.
My heart just sank when I read that email. I seriously called my mom right away. She was at work, went and woke up my dad, just gave me the butterflies.
Just seeing his face, what he's always wanted is continuing, and he knows that what he's worked for is paying off.
I told him after the first game, you've proved everything. Whatever happens from here is really just icing on the cake or a reward for where you can go as a young man.
Darren Haynes, Jazeera. What if someone told you to achieve a goal, you have to visualize it? What if I told you there's an athlete who achieved everything, seeing nothing?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said, oh, I'm happy with being, no. I mean, the reality is I do have, those moments where I'm like, oh man, I wish I could see.
Jim Hughes lives with congenital glaucoma, a disease that causes severe damage to the optic nerve in the eyes. A 22-year veteran and a 10-year captain for the Long Island Bombers, a baseball team for the visually impaired, Jim has not let what he can't see stop him from what he can be.
Oh, see ya.
Getting dirty, going after a ball, if it hit me in the face, I was like, yeah, a guy, that means I'm going to put him out. So I was ready to sacrifice my body from the get-go, and I just fell in love with the sport.
Before 13 of the Long Island Bombers were either legally blind or visually impaired, they had the chance to see and remember the simple things in baseball, such as what a baseball diamond or baseball glove even looks like, except for Jim Hughes, who was too young to remember the things we see every day.
I never had it, so I think it was easier to adjust because you can't miss what you never had. So I think losing my vision at 3 was, I think made the road a little easier, to be honest with you.
But there were challenges. Jim's mother lost her vision, and 4 of her 5 children, including Jim, also lost their sight to this disease. But Joseph, the oldest, kept the family solid.
Being blind in a predominantly sighted world can be challenging, but he always said, be strong. Never let people say you can't do. You are able, so go for it. And I think he gave me that approach to life.
But when Jim was only 16, Joseph lost his life.
He used to call me Little Rock, my family, that's what they called me. And he was kind of the big rock for me. And to have that removed was difficult and, did create a lot of tough emotions that I had to deal with at that age.
While Jim continued to play baseball with his brother in his heart, he also found love.
We met on a blind date, and I joked that I went on a blind date with a blind guy. And then I got to know Jim, and I knew instantly we were going to get married.
January of 2004, Diana and Jim tied the knot. They also had 3 children, but there was a problem.
I think the moment where it was the most difficult for me was when my daughter was diagnosed with glaucoma, because that no longer is in your control. When it affects your children, that's when you ask the questions like, what the hell?
Thankfully, through multiple surgeries, Sarah can still watch Daddy.
Is she your biggest fan?
I hope so. She's awesome. She's my little girl.
She's just proud of him. She writes stories about him at school, about, a hero, and how she just loves him and she's impressed by him, and she loves her dad.
Despite limitations, Jim's a blind baseball all-star, a high school AP history teacher for over 22 years, and an actor. Starring in the 1980s movie Bustin' Loose, featuring Richard Pryor. Through it all, his achievements are glorified.
He's the most amazing person I've ever met. He's the most amazing husband I've ever seen. And he is a phenomenal father, and he's a great teacher. And as an athlete, he's just impressive.
So what do you see? An athlete, a husband, or a father? Maybe Jim Hughes wants us to see how he plays the game we call life.
I actually use game as kind of an acronym, and the G I always say is for being grateful. Be grateful for what you do have. Don't dwell on what you don't. The A is for adapting. The M is for being motivated, and then the E is seeking excellence. You always have to expect the best from yourself, and if you give it your all, then you should be able to go to sleep well at night.
Darren Haynes, Jazeera.